What is going on, everybody? Lou from Life Beyond the Panels, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Venom Omnibus by Donny Cates. I just finished this one up a couple of days ago, and yeah, I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on the book. So without further ado, let's get to it. So first, I'll let you guys know the reason why I bought this omnibus was because at the time I had just started reading the Venom single issues. I'm going to put this down because it's heavy. I just started reading the Venom single issues with Mary Jane, and it got me more curious about Venom. You know, Venom, really wasn't a character that I really had known too much about previously before starting to read that series. And at this point I had just gotten back into comics, and I mostly wasn't really reading superhero stuff when I was into comics, years back. So this kind of intrigued me, and I remember at the time, so this was even before I realized that you can buy omnibuses much cheaper, although I think I did actually get this at a good price, because I remember buying it off of Amazon, which I don't buy any books off of Amazon anymore, but I remember getting this off of Amazon. So it did sit on my shelf for quite a while. But after I finished the Green Lantern Volume 1 omnibus by Jeff Johns, I started reading this. Now, if you guys watch my videos, you guys know I rotate through 4 omnibuses, reading an arc at a time. So it usually takes me about 2-3 months to get through one book, especially one as thick as this. I think this has, does it tell me how many pages it has in the back here? It doesn't. Let me see. Let's look it up real quick, how many pages this has. Okay, yeah, it has 1,342 pages. So this is a thick omni. Although, that being said, I will tell you right away, this is not a tough read, because you can really blow by issues really quickly in this book. I found, if there was ever a book that's like super binge worthy, it's gonna be this book. With each issue you get to, it's very easy, especially like when you're within an arc especially, to just want to continue reading. And I've definitely found that be the case here with Venom. Now, before I go into the rest of my review of the book, I just want to show you guys what the book looks like without the jacket on. And, for those of you guys who don't read too many omnibuses, never read it with the jacket on. Don't do it. But this is pretty sick here, how it looks without the jacket. And the artwork is really fantastic as well. Give you a look at what some of the artwork looks like here. I don't have a camera set up to be able to share with you like an overhead of the book. And I'm not going to really do a review like that anyway, but let's find something pretty cool. I mean, this just like this right here is like a good example of what some of the artwork looks like here in the book. All the artwork throughout the entire book just looks fantastic. A little bit more of a look here where we see Spider-Man and Eddie Brock. Anyway, you don't need me to show you the book, because after you read this review, after you hear this review, and if you haven't read it, you're gonna want to buy it. And if you have read it, you already know what it looks like. So first, let's talk about Eddie Brock. What an emotional character. Even though he might not be the most relatable to most of us, he really is, because he's got so many daily struggles and struggles from within. I think it's something that is actually pretty relatable to a lot of us. He thinks so low. His self-esteem is so low in this book. And I think that's what makes him such a character that you really want to root for as you go throughout the book. He carries a lot of guilt from his past, from something that happened when he was a teenager. His relationship with his dad is pretty bad. And I think that's what's really interesting when Dylan comes into it. And this really is a book about Dylan and Eddie Brock and their relationship. And the Venom stuff to me almost seems secondary in this book. To me, the best stuff in this book is whenever we're dealing with both Dylan and Eddie Brock, especially early on in the book when it's not established, at least not yet for Dylan, that Eddie is his father. And I thought that was really interesting, and also the way Dylan looks at Eddie as this book moves along. So yeah, Eddie Brock definitely feels like just a very, very human character. And that's great. This is a superhero book, but yet so many aspects of it almost feel like an independent book because of how this really is about the characters. Speaking of Dylan, that was another amazing thing about this book, is just how you see Dylan grow from when we first meet him to the end of the issue. The end of the omnibus. He grows to really become his own person. And I'm not going to, one thing with these reviews, I'm not going to be giving away spoilers, If I give away any spoilers, they're like slight spoilers, which wouldn't ruin anything for you. But he really does become... So Eddie Brock is always trying to protect Dylan. And that makes sense. You're a father, you're trying to protect your son. And it's great to see how Dylan evolves and basically proves that he doesn't always have to be protected, that he can eventually become like his own person and capable of protecting himself. And I thought that was really great about this book. Another thing which I was really happy with this book, because it really did do exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn more about Venom, the mythology, learn more about symbiotes. Again, I didn't really know a lot about that going into this book. And that was one of the biggest takeaways I've got from this book, was how exactly the symbiotes work, how this alien entity attaches to a human being and how it becomes their host. And, you know, I talked about relationships, the relationship between the Venom symbiote and Eddie Brock. It's remarkable. It's almost like they're lovers in a way. It's kind of a weird way to put it, but it's almost like they are lovers. You know, like Eddie Brock refers to Venom as his other. You know, like you would do if you like my spouse, my other. You know, and vice versa. And when they get separated, it's almost heartbreaking. And you feel it. You feel the emotion when Eddie is no longer attached to Venom, and Venom is no longer attached to Eddie Brock. We have a lot of stuff here with the Maker, which I thought was really interesting. And the Maker is a real bastard. He always is, and he always will be. And but it's interesting because you have times here where Eddie has to rely on the Maker, and there are other times where, you know, well, the Maker's intentions probably are not really the best. And I thought that really added a lot to this book as well. Also, we have Carnage in this book. You know, Absolute Carnage, which is one of the bigger events from this book, was really amazing. You know, I've heard the name Cletus Cassidy before, but I didn't really know who that was. And now reading this omnibus, I knew who it was. And I got to tell you, you know, reading how Carnage is in the current comics, you know, I read the New Avengers, and it almost seemed like comedic in a way. Carnage is a real a-hole. You know, he is a real jerk bastard. That's the best I can say it. He's a jerk. He's evil. He's super evil, just wants to kill. And there was definitely some really interesting stuff when it came to Carnage in here, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed how that also expanded throughout the Marvel Universe as well. But, you know, you can't talk about Venom and not talk about this guy. Now, it's funny, we got here he is on the back, Knull. Because Knull is the thing that at the start of the book and the end of the book basically bookends this. And Knull, you want to talk about evil. Knull is evil. And that King in Black event, which is what ends off this book, was so intense. Now, even though I already know, I've read now the current Knull, we're reading Queen in Black right now. So, you know, I kind of knew what was going to happen, but even still, like getting to live these issues, which were about 10 issues, I think there were 5 King of Black issues and 5 Venom issues that were going back and forth, were incredible. There's this one issue that really I thought was amazing, where you have Eddie Brock essentially falling the entire issue and his mind. And I was like, wow, that is pretty amazing. Imagine what goes through your mind as you're falling from a building. Amazing. And the writing was great during that. I like emotional stuff. With all the action that was going on in King of Black, I love that as well, with, you know, because of the writing and because of the artwork. So yeah, Knull, King in Black, that was incredible. Some other things I really enjoyed about this book, especially in the King of Black, was what happens to some of the heroes in this book. That was very surprising to see and pretty freaking awesome. You have stuff here with the Codex and Eddie being basically in this like alternate... I can't even give it away, but you know, the Codex. Remember that when you read it, the Codex. That was pretty sick. So, at the end of the day, I gave this Venom a 5 out of 5. In fact, I'm going to say right now that of the omnibus that I've completed, this has got to be number 1. Number 2 right now at this point would be Volume 1 of The Walking Dead. This here is number 1 because it was so good. I will eventually go back and read it again. And what's amazing now is everything that happens going forward in the current Venom comic books, I'm going to understand so much more because I read this book. So comment below, have you read Venom by Donny Cates? What did you think about it? And if you haven't read it, maybe you should give it a try. I highly recommend it. Yeah, and that's it. So if you guys like this video, you know, be sure to click that like button, to subscribe, all the other good stuff, the bell, you know the deal. And yeah, that was it. Until next time, see ya.